There's something every bilingual learner feels, but no one ever admits it out loud. Not teachers, not students, not even fluent speakers. It's the quiet moment where your mind switches languages, and suddenly, you don't feel fully at home in either one. Today we're going to talk about that feeling, the loneliness that lives inside bilingual thinking. Not the grammar, not the vocabulary, but the emotional cost that nobody warned you about, but every global learner carries. Hello everyone and welcome back to the LinguaFox podcast, the space where we decode the real emotional experience of learning English in a global world. I'm your host Abbas, and today we're going into a topic that almost nobody talks about openly, yet almost every learner has felt deeply. The loneliness of bilingual thinking. This episode is for you if you've ever felt different in English versus your native language, disconnected from people who don't understand your English journey, and unable to express your true self in a new language, torn between two identities, two modes of thinking proud, yet secretly overwhelmed. Bilingual thinking is beautiful, but it can also be lonely. And not because anything is wrong with you, but because your mind is literally expanding into two worlds. This episode is going to be personal, psychological, relatable, and honest, and I promise it will hit the exact experiences you've been silently carrying. Let's begin. When you begin to think in English, something subtle but powerful happens inside you. Your identity begins to stretch, sometimes gracefully, sometimes painfully, but nobody tells you how confusing this feels. Let's break down the emotional layers of this identity shift. 1. The no language feels like home face. This is one of the most confusing stages of bilingual growth. Suddenly, your native language feels too emotional, English feels too logical. Neither one feels like the perfect home. It's like you're mentally floating between two continents. People panic at this point. They think, why am I losing myself? Why doesn't my native language feel as natural? Why am I thinking in English but not feeling in English? But here's the truth. This is not a loss. This is expansion. You are not losing one identity. You're adding another. It's the mental equivalent of having two passports. But emotionally, it feels like you're standing in the airport, unsure which gate to go to. 2. The hidden grief of outgrowing old thought patterns. Here's something few people ever admit. Learning a new language includes a form of grief because you start to outgrow parts of yourself. You can't express jokes the same way. Your inner voice changes tone. Your memories sound different in your head. You lose old expressions that once defined you. You start to feel like there's a version of you locked behind the walls of English. And that makes you feel lonely. Not because you're alone, but because your inner self is shifting faster than the outside world sees. 3. The mistake that people make. Suppressing L1 to force English. A lot of learners think, I must stop thinking in my native language. I must kill it. I must force English to replace it. This is not only impossible, it's unhealthy. Suppression leads to mental overload, burnout, guilt, loss of linguistic confidence, emotional fatigue. Here's the psychological truth. Healthy bilingualism is not replacement. It is coexistence. Your L1 is not the enemy of your English. It is the foundation that supports it. Trying to eliminate your native language is like trying to build a house while demolishing the foundation at the same time. You can't grow like that. Let's shift from emotion to cognition, because bilingual thinking is not just emotional, it's neurological. Your brain is operating like a computer with two systems running simultaneously. The double processing problem. When you think in English, your brain doesn't just add a new language. It compares, checks, cross-references, and synthesizes two systems constantly. Even when you don't notice, this creates mental fatigue, slower thinking, heavier emotional processing, the feeling of being mentally drained after speaking English. Learners mistake this for lack of talent. The memory is bad. I'm not fluent enough yet. But no, you're tired because your brain is working twice as hard as a monolingual brain. This is not weakness. This is effort, Most learners think translating in their head is harmless. It feels natural, it feels safe, it feels smart, but here's what actually happens. Translation hijacks your working memory. Your brain spends so much energy converting thought to language, language to correction, correction into expression, that there's no bandwidth left for fluency. Translation is useful at early stages, but clinging to it at higher levels becomes a prison. The moment you let English form the thought directly and not translate it, your fluency multiplies. Here's a harmful habit: over-checking grammar while thinking. This is a silent fluency killer. Learners think, I should mentally correct every sentence as I speak. But self-monitoring is like driving with one foot on the gas and one on the brake. It creates hesitation, stress, unnatural speech, fear of making mistakes, and ironically, you make more mistakes because your cognitive load is too heavy. Grammar is not something you think about while speaking. Grammar is something that emerges when you have enough input and enough practice. Your brain learns grammar the same way it learned your first language, from patterns and not from pressure. Here's a healthy practice: trusting half-formed ideas. This is one of the most powerful skills a bilingual thinker can master. Speak before the idea feels perfect, because fluency isn't about expressing a perfect thought. Fluency is expressing an imperfect thought flowingly. When you trust your half-formed English ideas, your brain becomes brave, and bravery accelerates fluency more than any textbook ever could. Let's go a bit deeper into the emotional core of bilingualism. This is the part learners feel intensely but rarely talk about. 1. Feeling emotion in one language, expressing it in another. This is a unique emotional struggle. You feel love, anger, sadness, humor, sarcasm in your native language's emotional structure, but you try to express it in English's logical structure. The mismatch creates a strange emotional disconnection. You feel the emotion deeply, but the English expression feels weaker, flatter, simpler, or less you. That's not a language problem, that's a brain adaptation phase. 2. The I sound smarter in my head problem. Every bilingual learner knows this feeling. In your mind, your ideas are rich, layered, intelligent, and nuanced, but when you speak, they come out simpler, less expressive, less detailed, less you. This mismatch creates imposter syndrome, embarrassment, fear of speaking, self-doubt. You're not less smart, you're accessing fewer tools. Your native intellect is intact, only the expression is developing. 3. Dangerous mindset trap. I must speak like I think. This belief destroys confidence because your thoughts develop years faster than your language abilities. Expecting your English to match your inner thoughts is like expecting a tree to grow instantly after planting the seed. It's impossible and unfair and self-sabotaging. Fluency is not matching your thoughts. Fluency is communicating despite the mismatch. 4. Reality check. Every bilingual feels this. It's not a flaw. We need to normalize this. Feeling like two versions of yourself. Feeling simpler in English. Feeling smarter in silence. Feeling split between two languages. These are not signs of weakness. These are signs of growth. You're evolving. You're expanding. You're becoming multilingual. Mentally, emotionally, and cognitively. This phase is lonely, yes, but loneliness is not failure. It is transition. Let's talk about the social dimension, the part that affects friendships, relationships, belonging, and identity. 1. The double identity feeling. Every bilingual person knows this. You are one version of yourself in your native language, a version full of cultural reflexes, humor, emotions, history, and a different version in English. Calmer, or funnier, or quieter, or more confident, or more analytical. Both are true. Both are you. But switching between them creates emotional friction. You sometimes feel like, I don't fully belong to my native world, but I don't fully belong to the English-speaking world either. This is not because you lack identity. It's because you have two identities, and merging them takes time. 2. the hidden pressure of being the English expert. This one is painful. Your friends, colleagues, and family assume you're the good one at English. So you feel pressure to never make mistakes, to translate for everyone, to always understand everything, to perform perfectly, but this pressure does not help. It suffocates growth. Being labeled the expert prevents you from learning freely because you feel watched. And when you feel watched, you can't take risks. And when you can't take risks, you can't grow. 3. Surrounding yourself only with L1 speakers. This is the comfort trap. You love your people. You feel safe with them. It feels natural to stay with them, but too much comfort becomes a cage. You stop practicing English, activating vocabulary, building automaticity, exposing yourself to real-world input. Your brain remains bilingual only in theory, not in practice. 4. Here's the healthy alternative: micro-social immersion. You don't need to move abroad or join huge English groups or force yourself into uncomfortable social situations. You just need small, powerful connections. One English friend, one weekly conversation, one English-speaking community, one online group, one language partner. When you add just one small English relationship, your bilingual thinking becomes alive, not lonely. Now that we've explored the emotional, cognitive, and social dimensions, let's focus on healing. Because bilingual loneliness is not something you escape, it's something you grow through. 1. Celebrate linguistic ambiguity instead of fighting it. You don't need to be one version of yourself. You don't need to choose. You don't need to feel guilty. You're allowed to be funny in one language, poetic in another, quiet in English, outspoken in your native language. Ambiguity is not confusion. Ambiguity is depth. 2. Rewriting your inner narrative in English. This is transformative. Start shifting small pieces of your inner voice into English. Your morning self-talk, your reflection before bed, your inner commentary, your emotional processing, your goals and affirmations. Little by little, English stops being the foreign language you use and becomes one of the languages you think in. Not perfectly, not fully, but naturally. 3. The third space concept. Most learners believe they must choose native language identity or English language identity. But bilingual thinkers actually live in a third space, a space between cultures, between languages, between emotional styles, between identities. This third space is not a weakness, it's your personal linguistic home. You don't belong halfway to both worlds, you belong fully to a new one you built. 4. Replace harmful habits with empowering ones. Let's turn the negative patterns into positive equivalents. Instead of over-editing, speak imperfectly, with courage. Instead of isolating, connect with one English friend. Instead of suppressing L1, integrate it consciously. Instead of translating, build English thought templates. Instead of avoiding speaking, practice micro-conversation blocks. Instead of feeling ashamed, recognize bilingualism as privilege. Your growth accelerates the moment you stop fighting yourself. Bilingual thinking is lonely because you're evolving. Let me say this clearly. If bilingual thinking feels lonely, it is because you're growing faster than your environment. When you're becoming someone larger than you were yesterday, you naturally outgrow old spaces and mental structures. This is not a sign of weakness. This is the clearest sign of transformation. You're not breaking apart. You're becoming more. You are not breaking apart. You are becoming more. Thank you for listening to this deep and emotional episode of the LinguaFox podcast. If this episode touched you, it's because you're living the real bilingual journey. The one filled with identity shifts, emotional friction, mental evolution, courage, and growth. You are not lonely in this. This experience is universal among bilinguals. Your loneliness is actually your expansion. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone who's learning English, someone who needs to Hear that their struggles are normal, valid, and meaningful. Until next time, keep thinking bravely, keep learning intentionally, and keep growing into your bilingual self. Stay sharp, stay curious, and stay LinguaFox.